Welcome to Golden Rule Wisdom, where we explore timeless stories to uncover the profound strength hidden within our own human spirit. In a small and bustling village lived Aakash, a man whose heart was so open that he could never refuse a request. From the moment the sun rose, Aakash was busy fixing fences, carrying heavy loads, and solving problems that were not his own. He lent money he could barely spare and gave time he did not have, believing that his sacrifice was true virtue. But as the days turned into years, the light in Aakash's eyes began to dim, replaced by a heavy, constant shadow. He barely had time to eat or rest because the demands of the village never ceased, consuming every moment of his life. Instead of gratitude, his endless availability bred contempt. The villagers began to see him not as a hero, but as a servant. They treated his kindness as a weakness to be exploited, pushing him harder and further until he had nothing left to give. One afternoon, the weight became too much to bear. Aakash collapsed by the road, his body finally rebelling against his spirit. He felt like a candle that had burned itself out to light the way for others, leaving him in total darkness. Even in his weakness, he could not find the words to refuse. The fear of disappointing others was stronger than his pain. He believed that saying no was an act of selfishness, unaware that saying yes to everyone was an act of self-betrayal. Sleep evaded him as his mind raced with the tasks of tomorrow, a never-ending list of obligations that were not his own. The next morning, a traveling caravan arrived. An old merchant, wise and observant, noticed Aakash struggling under a heavy load. He watched as the villagers barked orders at the kind man, treating him with the indifference one might show to a mule. The merchant approached Aakash, offering him cool water and a moment of respite, ignoring the impatient glares of the villagers. Aakash drank the water, tears forming in his eyes. He was so used to giving that receiving felt like a strange miracle. The old man looked at him and asked gently, "Why do you allow these people to drain the very life from your soul?" Aakash lowered his head and whispered, "I only wish to be good. I want to help them so they can be happy." The merchant shook his head and pointed to a tree nearby, suffocating under the weight of thick vines wrapping around its trunk. "Look at that tree. It gives its sap to the vines freely, but soon it will die, and the vines will fall too." He looked deep into Aakash's eyes and said, "Kindness without strategy is not virtue, my friend. It is simply self-destruction." The words struck Aakash like lightning. He realized that in trying to save everyone else, he was actively destroying himself. To help others, you must first be strong. A well that has run dry cannot quench the thirst of any traveler. Learn to say no. It is not a weapon of rejection, but a shield to protect the value of your kindness. Aakash sat alone for a long time, letting the wisdom sink in. He realized he had been a slave to his own need for approval. The next morning, the test began. A neighbor arrived early, banging on the door, demanding Aakash come and fix his broken cart. Aakash opened the door, took a deep breath, and stood his ground. He did not bow or rush to apologize as usual. "I am sorry," Aakash said calmly, "but I have my own work to attend to today. I cannot help you this time." The neighbor stormed off in anger, but as Aakash closed the door, he felt a strange and wonderful lightness in his chest. For the first time in years, Aakash spent the day tending to his own home, clearing the dust and letting the light in. Later, when asked for money, he refused firmly. He explained he could not lend more until previous debts were repaid in full. Rumors spread quickly through the village like wildfire. They said Aakash had changed, that he had become selfish and arrogant. He heard their whispers, but for the first time they did not hurt him. He knew he was reclaiming his own life. A week passed, and the change in Aakash was visible. His health returned, his eyes shone, and his spirit was renewed. He nurtured his own garden, and just like the plants he tended, his soul began to blossom with new energy and purpose. Then a true crisis struck. A fire broke out in a neighbor's barn, and they ran to Aakash, desperate for help. Without hesitation, Aakash rushed to the scene. He was strong, rested, and full of energy, leading the effort to save the barn. Because he had saved his energy, he was able to give fully when it truly mattered, saving the family from ruin. The villagers looked at him with new eyes. They saw not a servant they could use, but a strong man they could respect. They realized that his no was not malice, but a boundary that allowed his yes to be powerful and effective. People still came to him, but now they asked with politeness. They valued his time because he had taught them its worth. He continued to help, but on his own terms. He gave from his overflow, not from his reserves, maintaining his balance. Like the tree free from the vines, Aakash thrived. His roots grew deep, and his branches spread wide, offering true shade to others. When the merchant returned, he found a man transformed. Aakash had learned that self-respect is the foundation of all true charity. The village itself changed. When Aakash stopped doing everything, others learned to take responsibility for their own lives and burdens. He became a mentor, not a martyr. He taught the village that true help empowers others rather than making them dependent. Aakash found peace not by giving less of his heart, but by guarding it with wisdom, ensuring it could beat for a lifetime. This story reminds us that boundaries are not walls to shut people out, but gates to protect the sanctuary within us. When you say yes to others, make sure you are not saying no to yourself. Your energy is a divine gift. Respect is not given to those who always yield. It is earned by those who know their own worth and stand by it. It is not selfish to rest. It is not wrong to prioritize your mental peace over the chaotic demands of the world. Be like a river that flows with purpose, giving life to the banks, but never allowing itself to be drained dry. If you feel exhausted by your own kindness, pause and ask yourself, am I helping them or am I hurting myself? True kindness comes from a place of abundance. It is a choice we make, not a tax we are forced to pay. Protect your light. The world needs it, but the world needs it to shine steadily, not to burn out in a flash. When you set boundaries, those who only used you will leave, but those who truly respect you will remain and grow closer. Find your center. Let your no be as sacred as your yes. This is the path to a life of dignity. Do not let your life be a house with no doors. You hold the key, and you decide who enters your space. Teach others how to treat you by what you accept and what you refuse. You are the architect of your own value. As seasons change, so must we. We must shed the old habits of pleasing everyone to grow into our true, strong selves. Wisdom is knowing that not every opportunity is for you, and not every burden belongs on your shoulders to carry alone. Peace of mind is the highest form of wealth. Aakash reclaimed his fortune the day he learned to draw the line. Remember, you cannot pour from an empty cup. Take care of yourself first so that you can take care of the world. Be a lighthouse, strong and grounded. Shine your light for others, but do not let the waves crash over and drown you. Let your kindness be a deliberate act of love, not a desperate act of seeking validation from those who do not care. Aakash looked at his village and smiled. He was no longer a victim of his own goodness, but a master of it. From exhaustion to energy, from disrespect to honor, the journey of Aakash is a lesson for every kind soul watching today. Let this be your golden rule. Kindness needs wisdom. Without it, the giver is lost and the gift loses its true power. If you see yourself in Aakash's story, take a step back today. Reclaim your power. Start by saying a small, honest no. You will find that the world does not end when you set a boundary. In fact, a new and better world begins. Hold on to this wisdom. Let it guide you through the demands of life, keeping your spirit safe and your heart open. Walk your path with courage. Be kind, be generous, but above all, be true to the sacred duty you owe yourself. Thank you for joining us on this journey of transformation. May you find the strength to protect your own beautiful light. This is Golden Rule Wisdom. Subscribe for more stories that touch the soul. Until next time, stay wise and stay strong.